Hey guys, it is Dan and Kim here at Couples Talk Anime. We're going over Claymore, episode 1, 2 through 8.
And the first episode is called The Great Sword. This is where we first meet Claire. It opens up, the scene is just phenomenal. It goes straight to red. You're like, oh crap, something bad's about to happen. And there's Claire. You don't even know it's Claire. She's just standing there. Her eyes go from silver to gold. And she just beheads this Yoma. And that goes straight to the opening song. It's a great way to start an anime. It really is.
Absolutely. I love how this is where we meet Rocky too, I believe.
Yes.
And he's his older brother.
Yeah.
His older brother was being, taken over by a Yoma, and right before he tries to kill Rocky, I thought it was kind of cool how they added in my there was a part of his older brother still trying to fight back the Yoma.
But before we even got to that point, you meet Rocky, he runs up to Claire, he's trying to talk to Claire, and she almost tries to attack Rocky because it kind of foreshadows to that, being his brother is a Yoma, because her eyes only turn red. We learned that not red, gold. They only turn gold when she senses a Yoma, and she smelt it on Rocky, but you don't know that until later on in the episode,
which is great. She basically tailed Rocky and used him to find the Yoma.
Exactly. That was very smart, very clever of her. I loved Rocky's character, the very first episode. I loved that Rocky, he goes, he's so sweet. He says, you're no different from us. Because he's basically follows Claire around like a little puppy dog.
Yeah.
And she's like, why are you following me? Are you not scared of me? And he's like, I mean, why should I? I mean, you're just like everybody else. You're no different from us. And I thought that was great because I think we all should think of everybody else that way. No one's different from anybody else, It's
kind of a nice flip, too, having a female as, the strong character, protagonist character, and, you have, the dude that's just a wimpy, and needs help,
But he's also there for Claire, but that doesn't happen till later on in the...
And, on, an emotional level, and, it's almost an homage to how she was when she was younger, but, he follows her around, he really cares for her.
Yeah. And that's when it happens, is that we find out that Rocky's entire family has been eaten by Yoma. His own brother was taken over by a Yoma, and
tried to kill him.
And Claire saved his life. And
that's where it leads up to he ends up following her.
Yeah. And Claire is reminded of herself, basically. You see a little bit of a flashback of herself before she became a Claymore, which they don't even use in the first place. The Claymores do not call themselves Claymore because the episode doesn't end just yet. Rocky is saved by Claire, brought to a village, because his own village kicked him out of his own village because they were afraid he was a Yoma, which is really sad. You feel for Rocky for that. And he goes into the woods trying to find the Claymore who saved him. And then he meets this woman who calls herself a Claymore, but he remembers Claire saying, we don't call ourselves that. That's just what you call us, And that's basically how the episode kind of ends, is... Claire saves Rocky again. And he's like, okay, now I'm going to follow you for the rest of my life because you saved me twice.
Yeah. Basically, yeah.
So that's the end of basically episode 1. Episode 2, it's called The Black Card. I love the show because it kind of foreshadows what's going to happen in the episode. You want to tell a little bit about what you thought about this episode?
I thought it was great how Rocky, despite Claire telling him, I don't want nothing to do with you, you stop following me, he continues. He bound and determined gave his life to try to help her, follow her.
Because basically, so this whole episode is Claire when you join the organization, you are given a card. That when you've reached, for all intents and purposes, when you become a Claymore, you're given this card. And when you become a Claymore, you can reach a certain limit in your Yoki or Yoma powers. And if you reach it too far, you become what they call an awakened being. And before you can become that, you would send this card to whoever it is you wish to kill you before you have that happen. And Claire's friend sends it to her, and she has to do it. And Rocky's like, no, man, you can't kill her. And Claire's like, dude, you don't understand. Like, it's not the same. You don't understand. I have to.
Yeah,
otherwise, we're all going to be in
danger. Yeah, it's almost like, an honor to do that for your friend.
Basically, yeah.
And Rocky just doesn't see it that way.
No. And, you learn a little bit more about Claymores in this episode. And it really shows that Claymores are really different from humans. Like, they don't need to eat. Claire states that she can go entire week without eating, which I found fascinating. And let's see what else. Also, Claymores can only be women. We don't know why just yet, but I do believe later on in the episode they do mention that
all the Claymores are women.
But that's because men, for some reason, they just can't.
I believe they were just too aggressive.
Yeah, something like that.
Too aggressive.
It was too much for them.
And then the organization couldn't control them.
Yeah. So then episode 3, which is
when she gets told about her assignment to go into the city. Or is it a city or? Yes,
it's basically a big city. It's kind of
it's an area like a city that no Claymores are allowed.
Yeah.
So she actually has to take a pill to hide her Yoma. It makes it so her eyes turn brown, and as a result, she can't sense Yoma as good as she would. But, I mean, the pill only lasts a little bit, so she gets into the city, she's able to infiltrate with Rocky.
Yes.
And saying that Rocky is her brother, and that's where she infiltrates and meets Zoro and Sanji.
Yes! Okay, so the reason he says that, the voice actress, the English voice actress, her name is Stephanie Young. She is also the voice actress of Nico Robin in One Piece. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. So, also, she in the episode, Claire meets 2 other people, and they work for the city. Yeah. And they're just trying to enforce the rules, basically. And I'm going to my fiance here, and I go, honey, I'm pretty sure that's Zoro's voice actor, and I'm pretty sure it's Vince Smoke Sanji's voice actor as well. And sure enough, we looked it up, and bada bing, bada boom, it's both of them. All 3 of them got together to voice these 3 episodes, and it just gave me goosebumps. So, yes. So
that's why I said they're not really Zoro and Sanji. It's really just the voice actor.
But it's the voice actor.
I thought it was a great moment.
I love that. And I just wanted to mention something else that I watched Claymore before I ever watched One Piece. Dan here watched One Piece before I watched One Piece. And when I watched it, before that, I watched Claymore first. I introduced Claymore to Dan, actually, and vice versa with One Piece. And I remember watching One Piece with Dan, and I go, Nico Robin, her voice sounds very familiar to Claire's. And it turns out my 2 favorite anime characters are voiced by the same actress. Sorry, I just nerded it out a little bit.
So she gets into the city. She infiltrates the city. Yes. She finds out later that it's a father or a priest that actually asked for her in the first place because they're getting slaughtered in the cathedral, in the main cathedral. So there's only a certain number of people. There are only so many guards that are allowed in there, and have the fathers and all the friars and whatnot.
Yes.
So,
she goes to meet with him at night, and that's when she runs into Zoro and Sanji for all intents and purposes. And when she gets there, she tells the priest, she goes, look, if I complete this you pay us. But if I don't and I die, I only ask of one favor of you. You know, can you please look after Rocky? And the priest goes, you know, I'm so selfish. I'm over here worried about myself, and you, whom everybody calls a monster, is actually concerned about the well-being of this boy. And the show is just so heartwarming with little scenes like this, where you get to see like people actually realizing that they're human, and everybody is a human, regardless if you call them a monster or not. And he's like, of course, I'll take care of this child for you. I thought that's honestly my favorite scene in this episode, to be honest. So.
I believe it was at that night, but she ends up fighting with them a little bit, and then the Yoma ends up killing someone. She actually gets over there in time to meet the Yoma and gets injured by him.
Yes.
And she was, it took her a little time, but with her Yoma power, she was able to heal, and this led, when she woke up, to her actually investigating all of the friars. Yeah. She went and checked all the friars, all the guards and whatnot, to see who the Yoma is, because there's only a certain number of people in the that are allowed in the cathedral.
Which leads to episode 4, which they recap on that again. And it turns out that in episode 4, the Yoma has been hiding in plain sight as a corpse.
Yes.
Which I thought was very smart. And we find out that there are different types of Yoma. Yes. And this one's called a voracious eater, which means he's been around a little bit longer than others.
Because I think she states the longer a Yoma's alive, their hunger grows.
Yes.
They have to feed more and more.
And that's why they're called voracious eaters. And I love this show because they give so much information, a little bit here, a little bit there, and if you pay attention, you'll figure it out.
And I believe, so she fights the voracious eater with the help of Zoro and Sanji. I'm not sure what their names are right now.
Yeah, we'll just keep calling them that.
And,
I like it.
She ends up being she beats the Yoma.
Yes.
And doing so, she used so much Yoki that she almost awakens. But Rocky, my boy Rocky, comes in for the save.
With the support of Save, man.
Comes in, just, hugs her. And that was enough for her to retain who she was.
He also said one thing, though, that kind of made her like, whoa.
Yeah.
He goes, if you're going to turn into a Yoma, or if you're going to die, you're going to take me with you. And it was like a flashback to when she was a child.
Yes.
You'll find that out in the next episode that we're going to recap, we're going to talk about.
But it's great how they end it right there.
Yes.
Because that episode jumps right into entering Teresa of the Faint Smile.
Episode 5. Yes, episode 5. Yep, Teresa of the Faint Smile.
Alright, so right now, she is definitely my favorite character in Claymore, is Teresa. I love her character. You don't find out later on. Well, I mean, when they talk about her, they say that she's the strongest female in all of Claymore's, and I think he rehashes that, and he's the strongest thing, or monster.
Yeah.
So
she is number 1 in the organization.
Yes, they introduce her by, she walks up to a village and she says later on that she senses 7 Yoma. Sorry. She senses 7 Yoma and just walks up to the village, slices up 6 of them right off the bat.
Can I just say, the scene is so great because every person who goes, she's crazy, she's out of her mind, turns out to be a Yoma. She's like, oh, found the first one. Oh, found the second, third, fourth, and then the 5th and the 6th pop up, and she's like, you guys are pretty dumb. If you were smart, you would have transformed sooner. And then she's like, let's see, I sensed 7. Let's count how many we have. I love how,
And I think, is the 7th one hiding behind Claire?
Yep, and that's when we meet a little girl, but we don't know it's Claire yet. We don't know it's her till later on in the episode. But I think to be honest with you, when I first watched this by myself, way before I even met Dan here, I didn't put 2 and 2 together. For me, I kind of thought that maybe Claire The little girl in the episode was like, I don't know, maybe the Claire now, like, daughter? I don't know. It just didn't connect, but now that I've seen it a couple of times, I obviously understand it better, but,
Yes. So, that's how she actually meets Teresa.
yeah.
She goes up and hugs Teresa. And you don't find this out till later, but I want to say it now. She's actually hugging Teresa because she senses a connection with her. Like, I believe she says she has the same pain, the same kind of pain in her eyes. And that's what she was trying to do. She was trying to comfort Teresa. Meanwhile, Teresa thought, what do you think, I'm your savior? I did not do this for you. This is my job.
And this whole, basically most of the episode, you see just Teresa, like, walking and Claire just following. And then we get to this part where Claire reaches Teresa in the woods, and a group of bandits come and attack. And at first, Teresa's like thinking they're Yoma, but they're really humans. Mm-hmm. And one of the bandits grabs Claire. And at that moment, she like cuts the bandit's hand off. Teresa cuts the bandit's head off. And at that moment, you can see that she kind of slightly cares for the child. Otherwise, why would you, cut the guy's hand off, right? Unless it was a reflex.
Yeah.
But
and so the guys end up trying to take advantage of her. Yeah. And she's like, fine, go ahead. And rips her shirt right off. And everyone's like, oh, no.
She's obviously been covered in scars.
And her whole body is covered in scars.
Yeah.
And that's when they're like, all right, whatever. And they leave her alone.
Right.
But later on in the next episode, I believe, episode 6?
Which is Teresa and Claire.
Teresa and Claire. Enter Stumpy.
The Stumpy.
The guy who had his, let me just call him Stumpy.
We're just gonna
the guy who had his hand cut off. He tracked down Teresa and Claire and was about to take advantage of her when Claire comes out of nowhere with a club and smacks him right on the head. And he was about to go, hurt Claire. And when Teresa turns around real quick, grabs his sword and says,
whether I decide to choose to follow a rule is completely up to me. If I kill you now, I will gladly accept the consequences. And the guy was like, oh, her eyes in that episode, I'm going to have to, oh my God, her eyes were death.
Yes.
There was no other way to explain it. It was just death.
So the guy runs off, and he's, scared little pansy. Runs back to the bandits, and she's going on her mission. She kills the Yoma and leaves Claire at this village. Claire reluctantly, stays there. So as she's walking away, she sees the bandits, charging the village, and she realizes that the Yoma was the only thing keeping the bandits away from the village.
So she runs back, and Stumpy, of course,
is dragging Claire by her hair.
Yeah. And basically threatens to hurt her. We're not going to say what, but she completely,
Teresa lost it at that time, and I love it. She cuts his other hand off. Now he's like, how am I going to caress you with my no hands? But he's definitely a whack job.
Yeah.
And it was right then and there she accepts the consequences and literally slaughters all of the bandits who are, raping and pillaging, killing all the men and taking all the women.
Yeah.
So I don't know which one's worse, the Yoma or the bandits.
She even says it. She's like, you're worse than Yoma. You're worse than them. Like, I mean, how much worse can you be than a Yoma that literally eats humans? I mean,
in they're worse.
They are worse. So then we get to episode 7, which is marked for death.
I believe at the end of episode 6, she is about to take her. They're about to kill her, and she wounds. She wounds all the other Claymores because she was about to. She killed a human, and Claymores are forbidden to ever kill any humans. Yeah. So she's about to accept her death when she sees Claire, and she's like, you know what? I don't think I'm ready to die yet.
She takes all of those girls out. There must have been 7 of them.
Like nothing. And they're all wounded. They didn't die, but it's going to take them some time to heal.
Yeah.
So her and Claire, they go off on their own thing, and I believe that's the end of episode 6. And episode 7 is
7 is marked for death.
yes.
So that's when the
This
organization.
is when they introduce Sophia and
Can't remember. Helena. I think it's Elena.
Elena, the
Of the Quick Sword.
quick sword.
Elena of
She
the Quick Sword.
used to be the number 2.
Noelle and Sophia.
Noelle and Sophia.
Yep.
And then they also introduce who took Helena's second place spot, Priscilla. And the reason that they're sending her, other than, she's really strong, is because she fights similarly to Teresa.
Yes, she can fight without
Relying
producing on her yoki.
Yes.
She's not producing any yoki, which makes it really hard for Teresa to determine what her next move is, because Teresa has an ability where she can
sense all the yokai.
the slightest flow of yoki.
Yes. So it is
Gets
one
all
of
kinds of
the
crazy.
most epic fight scenes. I absolutely love Teresa, and at the end, she stands above all of them, and they can't even touch her.
Yeah.
So, right as she was gonna kill Priscilla, but she spares her,
Yeah.
and Priscilla loses it and starts using too much yoki.
Yeah. Now, I can't even
And that's
stand this whole scene,
that's episode 7, basically a whole fight scene,
basically.
which leads into episode 8, where Priscilla goes after Teresa, and she awakens. She does everything she can to try to kill Teresa, and Teresa, all she does is use, I believe, 10%, because only thing that changes is her eyes.
Yeah.
And she says to Priscilla, I believe, like, at 10% your eyes change, at like 20% or 30%,
your face
30%
changes.
your face changes.
At 50%, you can see it on your body. Like, your arms get bigger.
And if you go above 70%,
80%.
80%?
Yes. And that's when she tells Priscilla you're well over 70%.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you go above 80%, she said there's no coming back.
Yeah.
So she awakens, and
Priscilla's just out of her damn
right when
mind.
Teresa
Oh,
is about to
God.
do the death blow, she grabs her sword real quick, cuts Teresa's hands off, and then
Yep.
chops her head off.
And that's when she turns completely awoken.
Into an awakened being.
She's an awakened being. And, oh my God, it's quite terrifying, because she goes from completely berserker to calm, cool, and collected, about talking about how she just wants to bury her face in innards. And I'm like, oh my God, it's terrifying.
She takes down Elena.
All of them. She takes
them all
of
down.
them.
And takes Elena's arm.
Yep. She's like, here, you can
then,
have it back. Make sure you
Like,
hold on to
just
your
when you
things.
think she's going to kill Claire, she just walks right by
past
her. And this is when Claire, after that, she grabs Teresa's head and finds the man in black.
That works for the organization.
Yes, and asked him to have Teresa's head put inside of her body.
Well, not her head.
Or her
flesh.
Her flesh.
Yes. Her flesh.
But that's what she's holding her head.
I have to say, these episodes are like really heart-wrenching in the sense, because you just kind of start to feel for Claire, and now you understand why Claire is the way she is, why she's so cold and, calculated, and now you understand why she feels for Rocky, because she sees a part of herself in Rocky.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, this is a great anime.
It really is.
I look forward to reviewing the rest of the episodes with you guys.
We got a whole bunch more.
We have it on Blu-ray DVD, so we have the whole seasons.
And the best part of it is I have this great little booklet that came with it with interviews and pictures from the actual artist and writer. Mm-hmm. And you get a little bit further insight. And at the end, we're going to read the interviews once we're done completely.
Yeah, once we reviewed all the episodes, at the end we can make like another video just doing all the interviews and other questions and stuff. But it's been great, guys. I look forward to doing this again.
Please like, follow, and share. And I hope you guys have a great day.
Thanks.